Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
All right, welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, where we recap and discuss the latest news in Major League Baseball. As always, I'm your host, Jeremiah. Ben is not here today. He is covering the Major League All-Star Game for his soccer podcast. But I do have an action-packed show for you guys today. Of course, I'm going to talk about the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. In case you guys didn't know, Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza were inducted last weekend. And I will recap some of the trades that have been made so far. Aroldis Chapman has been traded, Melvin Upton Jr., and a couple other names that are rumored. And I will end possibly the show on Chris Sale, as he is coming back from suspension today, and he's been a mix of some trade rumors. Okay, well, let's get things started with the Hall of Fame induction ceremony that happened last weekend. Of course, as you guys know, Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza were inducted. And as some of you guys know, Ken Griffey Jr., really historic career, as well as Mike Piazza, as you can say. But I want to I kind of want to reflect on Ken Griffey Jr.'s career a little bit. Nickname The Kid. And man, what a career he had, indeed. He did not play like a kid at all. I'm going to tell you that right now. Did not play like a kid at all. And, growing up as a baseball fan in the 90s, because, I am a 90s kid. I was born in 1992. Ken Griffey Jr. was probably one of the players that really got me into watching baseball. He was practically the Michael Jordan of baseball to me, and I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan. And that's what he was to me in baseball. He just made the game look so cool. The way that he just fielded the ball, the way he played the outfield, the way he threw it, the way he swung the bat. He has the sweetest swing that I've seen growing up in my time, in my era. And having him in the Hall of Fame, it just reflects that. And the thing I loved about Ken Griffey Jr.'s Hall of Fame speech is, he talked about, his dad. Of course, some of you guys know, Ken Griffey Sr., he played with the Big Red Machine, the Cincinnati Reds, in the mid-'70s. Possibly one of the best teams ever assembled. And, of course, Ken Griffey Jr. reflected on that, growing up, with his father in the big leagues. And the thing I really remember that's most memorable about his Hall of Fame speech, Ken Griffey Jr., that is at the end of the speech is he put the hat backwards and everyone just applauded. He was literally there for about 2 minutes with the hat backwards, and man, it's just, I don't know, Ken Griffey Jr. is just a really, really all-time great, and it's a shame. His career could have been so much better. Yeah, it could have been so much better than what it is. Because if you look at his numbers, when he first came into the big leagues in Seattle, man, you thought he was going to get the home run record, the way that the pace he was going on. And if he would have probably stayed in shape, later in his career, when he was with the Cincinnati Reds, I think he would have possibly had a better career. And if injuries didn't occur often, I think he would have been the home run king right now. I honestly believe he would be the all-time home run leader. Well, back to what I was saying to his numbers. Man, if you take a look at his numbers in Seattle, man, it was just historic. He literally put Seattle Mariners on the map. He put Seattle baseball on the map. Seattle Mariners were relevant because of him. Sanko Field was built because of Ken Griffey Jr. And just to reflect on his career with Seattle, man, he had 45 home runs in 93, 40 home runs in 94, and, to move forward a little bit, 49 home runs in 96, and two consecutive 56 home run seasons in 97 and 98, and was too shy away from 3 consecutive home run seasons in 1999 when he hit 48 home runs in his final year with Seattle Mariners. And, man, it's just really great to see Ken Griffey Jr. Hall of Fame. And I really do think he should have been an unanimous Hall of Fame vote. He got voted 99.3%, which was the highest ever for a player. But I just got a question for the couple of writers that didn't vote for him in. I'm like, I just got a question for those people. Like, what made you not want to vote for Ken Griffey to the Hall of Fame as a first ballot? Like, what going on through your mind? Like, you see what this kid has done. He played in an era and played really well in that era with players full of, were playing on the juice. He was one of probably the consistent hitters in the steroid era. There was no question that he was juicing. He was just a workout warrior when he was in his prime. And, of course, when later in his career he did look like he was out of shape a little bit. He did look like he wasn't that workout warrior that he was. But, man, when his most successful years in his career, come on. You can't come on. For those writers that didn't vote for Ken Griffey Jr. in the Hall of Fame, why did you not vote for him? Like, really, you see what he has done in a steroid era. And he played really successful and clean. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think he should have been an unanimous Hall of Fame vote. But anyway, it's just to reflect on Ken Griffey Jr.'s career here a little bit. He has 630 home runs, which is 6th of all time. Number 6. If he would have stayed healthy and, stayed in shape, man, he could have had 700 easily. Probably could have had the home run record, as I previously said in this segment. And, of course, 13-time All-Star. He great career with the Mariners. Good career with the Reds. He did come back and play with the Mariners in 2009, 2010 before he retired. He did play with Ichiro a little bit. But, man, I just want to know what the Seattle Mariners would have looked like with Ken Griffey Jr. in his prime and Ichiro. I just really want to know how that looked like. I don't know. But, anyways. Yeah. Anyways, moving on to Mike Piazza here. Mike Piazza was arguably one of the best catchers in the game of baseball. He has 427 home runs, 12-time All-Star, 396 home runs as a catcher. That is the most of all time right there. And, of course, he had some great years with the Los Angeles Dodgers in 1992 to 98, before getting traded to the Mets in 98, 2005. And, of course, he had a couple of he finished his career off with the Padres in 06 and the A's in 07. And, he deservingly so belongs in the Hall of Fame. And another catcher that really belongs in the Hall of Fame is Edgar Martinez. I truly believe he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Even Ken Griffey Jr. said he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Of course, you guys might know that that was Ken Griffey Jr.'s teammate, Edgar Martinez, that is. And I don't know, this is a really good class of guys, very good group of guys, and I'm really glad these two players are in the Hall of Fame. Well, we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, I will talk about the trade deadline and some of the trades that have been made already. Do not go anywhere, guys.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. And narrowing down the trade deadline, we have some deals that have been made already. Yes, the Chicago Cubs have acquired Aroldis Chapman from the New York Yankees. The teams announced, this last Monday. And Chapman has joined the team. He did join the team on Tuesday against, crosstown rival Chicago White Sox. And I will get back to the White Sox later in the show after this segment. But the Yankees received a 4-player package. Yes, 4-player package. They got shortstop prospect Gleyber Torres in the deal. And Chapman, of course, you guys know, he was suspended for the first 29 of the game this past season under the baseball's domestic violence policy. And I don't know. I think the Chicago Cubs kind of gave up too much, a little too much for Chapman, who is possibly a 2-month rental. And of course, he is one of the dominant, probably the best closer in the game. Throws it at 105 miles per hour. Come on, I agree with that, but I don't really believe in giving up a lot of, your young players when, for 2-month rentals. I think that I like to get back on is when the Oakland A's traded, Addison Russell for Jeff Samardzija. That was an okay deal. I was like, okay, maybe Samardzija can help the Oakland A's contend for the World Series, because the A's were in contention. They're probably one of the best teams a couple years ago when they made that deal. And Addison Russell, of course, he is with the big league roster now in Chicago Cubs. He was a all-star, and that deal does not look as good as I thought it would now. And that's another, bad trade. I just don't believe in giving up prospects for 2-month rentals. And another trade that I've had a problem with, the past couple years is, and I still have a problem with, is when the Oakland A's traded Yoenis Cespedes to the Boston Red Sox for 2 months of Lester. I couldn't believe that when it happened, and I still can't believe that. And I think that was started the downfall for the Oakland A's right now, because they haven't been as successful as they were that year, and I just do not get trading prospects that could possibly develop well and be a really good player for a franchise for a player that's going to help you out for 2 months. And I get that the Chicago Cubs are going for that World Series championship. And Chicago, I know those people want a championship in baseball because it's been over 100 years. And I understand that. But I feel like, is Chapman really that much of a change? Is he going to get you that World Series ring? Is he? I know he's the best closer in the game, but I don't know. It's too much of a risk for me. And I don't know, if you're going to extend Aroldis Chapman's contract after this season, then okay, I say this is a great deal, because you lock up one of the best closers in the game for a couple more years. And I like that. I like that as well. But I don't know. If if Aroldis Chapman is a free agent this year, I don't know. And the Chicago Cubs do not win the World Series or even appear in the World Series, I don't know, man. I do not know, guys. I do not know. And, of course, Cubs chairman Tom Ricketts said in a statement when the trade was made, obviously, we are aware of circumstances surrounding Aroldis Chapman's suspension earlier this season. We are also fully aware that he cooperated fully with the league investigation and takes responsibility for his actions. And, of course, they're talking about Aroldis Chapman's, domestic abuse incident in October when he allegedly choked his girlfriend. And the police did not file charges, though, against Chapman. They cited insignificant evidence. And, of course, with conflicting stories and uncorroborative witnesses. Since then, when that incident happened, Major League Baseball did announce Chapman's suspension in March. 2 months after the Yankees traded 4 minor leaguers to the Cincinnati Reds for the All-Star closers. Because remember, Chapman was also traded this offseason as well. So, yeah, and it appears that he got traded again. So this is his third team within a year. And of course, Chapman is a 5-time All-Star heading to Chicago. And I'm going to tell you right now, the bullpen in Chicago was just atrocious this year. So I understand why you added the best closer in the game. I understand it. And as a baseball move, as a win-now move, I do love it. But moving forward after 2016, I'm not sure if I would love it after that, because you don't know how Chapman's situation is going to fall out with, the domestic abuse incidents or allegations, that is. Or if the Cubs would even contend in the World Series, because the Cubs are going to make the playoffs. There's no doubt this team is going to make the playoffs. And the bullpen for the Cubs, the reason why the bullpen was never talked about, the Chicago Cubs bullpen was never talked about, that is because there are so many big leads this team has had. And, of course, they had a dominant pitching to start off the year. But, of course, you can't play that hot forever. This is baseball. It's a hot and cold game. And I do like it for the bullpen. It's pretty, for Chicago Cubs, because when you're in contention for not only for a playoff spot but a World Series appearance, Aroldis Chapman could possibly be the difference for Chicago to get that World Series title. The World Series title that Chicago Cubs fans have been waiting for more than a century. And heading to this season, I do have the Cubs as a favorite to win the World Series. And, I still think they could win the World Series. I'm going to talk about that in my next episode with teams with hot and bad starts. But I think I kind of like it because it moves Hector Rendon as the 8th inning man, and he was pretty good as the closer. He was pretty good as a closer. I just think the bullpen just needed an extra oomph in it. An extra oomph. That's the best word I can describe this. Extra oomph. And Hector Rendon, when he was the closer for the Cubs this season, he had a 1.95 ERA, 18 saves, and but he was the only reliable pitcher in the bullpen. So now you got two really good pitchers in the bullpen. Hector Rendon is the 8th inning man. Aroldis Chapman is the 9th inning man. And the Cubs had a combined ERA of 3.83, ranking 7th in the National League. Entering Monday, before the trade was made, or when the trade was made for Aroldis Chapman, that is, the bullpen gave up a game-winning hit to the White Sox in the bottom of the 9th inning on Monday as well, and 5-4 loss to the Chicago White Sox. Yes. I do agree that the Cubs did pay a price to get Chapman. And like I said earlier, they got him for 2-month rental. And I don't like it for future standpoint, but if you're in a win now situation, then this is a great deal. Great deal. All right, well, I'm going to take my last break, and I will get more into the trade deadline, as well as talk about Chris Sale's return from suspension, and I will get more into that when we come back from the break.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, and I will continue recapping the trade deadline so far, and this is probably my favorite trade so far for both parties, that is. Toronto Blue Jays acquired outfielder Melvin Upton Jr. and cash from the San Diego Padres for minor league pitcher Hansel Rodriguez. Man, I love that name. Hansel Rodriguez. I love that name, Hansel. Yeah. All right. Anyways, moving on. Well, Upton is having his best year ever as a big league hitter. As you, of course, Melvin Upton, when he was known as BJ Upton a couple years ago, was probably had a tough time hitting the baseball. He couldn't hit it. And you just couldn't do anything to help him. You just couldn't do it. But now he looks like a new man, new player, new everything in San Diego this year. And he is one of two players that has 15 home runs and 20 stolen bases. You know who the other one is? That's right, Jose Altuve from the Houston Astros, who is having a MVP caliber season. And no one has even talked about Melvin Upton Jr. this year. I'm surprised. He's been quietly good. He's been probably one of the most underrated players this season. I'm surprised no one has ever talked about him. I'm surprised we haven't talked about him on the show yet. But I feel like I had to, because no one has talked about the year that Melvin Upton Jr. is having. Well, anyway, he is a 12-year veteran. He is batting .256 this year with 16 home runs. His batting average did go up to .290, above .290, 300 at one point this year. But, Upton was never really a contact hitter. To begin with, he's more of the speed guy, and possibly get you double-digit home runs. But, man, the pace that he's on, the year that he's having, I love this deal from the Toronto Blue Jays. I love this deal. This makes this offense a little more deadlier as they're, in midst of as they're trying to contend for a playoff spot. And the fact that he's hitting behind Jose Bautista, Enrique Encarnacion, Josh Donaldson, even Michael Saunders is having a great year. Possibly one of the best comeback stories of the year in Major League Baseball. Man, I just love this deal for both parties, and I think this is probably the most underrated deal, the trade deadline. This is my favorite deal. I love this. I love this trade. And I just love it. I love it. I love it. And I love it. I just can't stop saying I love it. Anyway, well, the Blue Jays, of course, they trailed the Baltimore Orioles by 3 games in American East. 3 games in American East. But Upton, he couldn't join the Blue Jays for a news conference, for when the deal was made. Because, as you guys know, it is a different country, and you know how all that stuff works or whatever. And but he did arrive with the Padres on Sunday night. Upton was treated as a visitor, and as a member of the Blue Jays, he requires a work visa to enter Canada. So that kind of put that on hold a little bit. That's why it took him a while to join the team. But man, Upton is playing really well. I love this deal. He's having a great year. He's having better year than his brother Justin Upton, who looked like he couldn't hit a baseball earlier this year, but of course has heated up a little bit. And I'm really happy for Melvin Upton. He's one of my favorite players when he was really good with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, when they were known as the Devil Rays back then. But of course they're known as the Rays now. And I really like this deal, and this is probably my favorite deal so far. And of course, with the trade deadline coming up, we will recap all the trades next week for our show, and we'll break them down, what our favorite trade was, and trades that weren't made that should have been made. And I think we'll have a trade deadline special for you guys next week. But moving on to my final segment of the day, Chicago White Sox are getting Chris Sale back after he was suspended from the team on Saturday. And of course, as you guys know, his suspension, he tore up or cut up some of the team's throwback jerseys that they were supposed to wear for Saturday's game. Because according to Chris Sale, they were uncomfortable and he couldn't pitch good. I'm like, really, Chris Sale, you're going to complain about a bunch of jerseys? That is why you really, how you going to act like a, really, I don't know, man. It's just kind of like, I just didn't know how to really, I thought the story was kind of fake when I first heard it. You're going to cut up jerseys because they don't feel comfortable? Really? Do you think minor leaguers do that? Not minor leaguers, little leaguers don't do that. Really? Come on, Chris Sale. But he is returning tonight from his 5-game suspension against the, of course, crosstown rival Chicago Cubs, as he would go against John Lackey. Yes, John Lackey. And that game is slated for a 5 o'clock first pitch at Wrigley Field. And that is all for today. Thank you for tuning to the baseball podcast, the GSMC baseball podcast, that is. You can catch us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, SoundCloud for episodes each and every week. And of course, you can always follow us on Twitter at GSMC_baseball and Instagram at the same handle. You can also like our Facebook page at the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. And you can listen to this show and our other shows on the network at GSMCpodcast.com, that is. And our next show, I will, get into some teams that are having some really good starts. Teams are having some really bad starts to start off the second half. And, of course, I will preview some series that are coming up this weekend, including pitching matchups. Yes. And I will have some top performers of the week. Top performers of the week so far. That is. Okay, well, thank you guys for tuning in, and see you on the next episode.